Hi, I'm Lanny, and we are preserving today, a greener pastures project. So today I'm going to be making some potato leek soup because I have some leeks in the fridge that I bought around Christmas time, and it's now a week past New Year's, and I haven't used them yet. So I had some plans for them around Christmas, and there was so much other stuff that we ended up not using them, and now they look sad in the fridge. And while most channels might be showing you picture perfect produce that they have arranged nicely, I'm showing you the reality of what it is to have a homestead kitchen and use what you have on hand and use it up in a way that works best for the situation. So these leeks are going to be soup, and we're not even going to know that they were gross looking like this after it's done. So I'm just going to start by peeling the outside leaves off of the leeks. It's similar to a green onion, and they're just big. Green onions for giants, right? I'm going to cut off the root end, and then some of the greens too. So just anything that looks nasty or brown or slimy, I'm going to peel off. Now that that's all done, I have all these leeks here ready to go, and I'm gonna just chop them really finely. It's gonna be really thin. I'm not gonna bother cutting them in half or anything first. So here I go. I'm gonna time myself to see how long it actually takes for me to chop all of these. As you'll see, I don't have the best form. I'm not a chef, I'm a home cook. So I do what I need to do to get the job done, whether or not it is what other people would say is the correct way to do it. I hope everybody would try to do it the way that works best for them in their kitchen. And hopefully that's what this channel is inspiring. I'm not here to teach you anything, I'm just showing you what I do. Okay, we have chopped leeks and they all go into the pot. Oh, this pot, I love it. It's a enameled cast iron Dutch oven by Lodge. I got it for Mother's Day last year and I use it almost every day. It's the best. I use a lot of cast iron. This one is enameled, so I can do a lot of things like boiling soup and tomatoes, stuff that doesn't do well in cast iron. You just have to be really careful of the enameled finish not to scratch it. So I never use any metal tools. It's always wooden spoons, and careful when I clean it and what kind of sponge that I use. Okay, so we have some kind of gross looking celery too, which is why I decided to do potato leek soup, is because I know my potato leek soup is celery and leeks, and I have both celery and leeks that are in need of attention. So any of the waste from this goes into my bucket that I take out to the compost. A lot of the times I'll take scraps and throw them in for the chickens and put the rest in the compost pile. Who am I kidding? I say I, but my husband does it. So I peel potatoes. I peel a bunch of russet potatoes, and at the end of the video I'll put the amounts roughly of what I put in the pot here so that you can make this at home if you'd like. I peel all these potatoes real quick and then cube them. Sometimes I make them smaller, sometimes I make them bigger. It really doesn't matter. I add salt, and I use Redmond real salt. I think this is one of the best table salts out there. Great stuff, check them out. Real salt has tons of trace minerals. It's nutrient dense instead of table salt like Morton's, which is processed to the point where it's just sodium and there's no minerals in it, and they add dextrose, which is sugar, as an anti-caking agent, and you don't need that in your food. So real salt, sea salt, Himalayan pink salt, whatever you choose, Celtic salt. I mean, there's tons of great options, but Redmond real salt is my favorite. I put black pepper in there, coarse ground, which is my fave. And then I add the butter and olive oil, and onto the stove it goes. I'm gonna saute this for about 2 minutes until the leeks are pretty wilted, and I'll show you what that looks like. After it's sauteed, you can add your garlic and stir that in just for 30 seconds or so, just till it starts to smell good. You don't want to cook garlic too long or it gets bitter and burned really easily. So I've got potatoes, celery, leeks, garlic, thyme, salt, pepper, butter, and olive oil all in the pot, Next thing I need to do is add my liquid. I'm going to use 2 cups of water and 4 cups of chicken broth today. Ideally, I'd be using all 6 cups of chicken broth, but I only have a 4-cup quart-size container in my freezer here. So what I'm going to do is use 2 cups of water, and then I know my broth is really dense because I made it myself. It's like Jell-O. So nothing will be hurt from thinning this out a little bit with some water. But guess what, guys? I didn't plan ahead and thaw my broth, but who cares because we're making soup. So I'm just gonna show you, I just ran some water on the outside of this container until it's separated from this. And I'm gonna put this giant ice cube log of broth right into the middle of the pot. And I'm gonna put the lid on and put it back on the stove and try to bring that to a boil and then turn it down to a simmer. It's really important to return it to a simmer as soon as possible, because that's going to keep all of that gelatin and collagen that you worked on in your homemade broth, to keep that intact. If boiling it changes the structure of the broth. So it'll take a little while for this giant cube of broth to melt. After it does, I set my timer for 12 minutes and let the soup simmer until the potatoes are fork tender. And the next step can be skipped if you want to, but I think it really adds a lot to the soup, is to puree part of the soup and then return it back to the pot. So I'm going to remove a few cups, and I'm going to use my stick immersion blender. It's Cuisinart brand. This is like an amazing tool. I use it all the time. You can make whipped cream in seconds. It's good for a million pureed soups. Oh yeah, you don't want to splash. Be careful because it's really hot. So I just totally launched some soup across my counter. So puree that until it's smooth and then add that back to the pot. Give it a stir, and now you're going to add some cream. And I'm going to do a cup of heavy whipping cream. We keep this on hand because I use it to make butter and we use it in our coffee. The jar's almost gone, so I'm just going to use the rest of this and call it good because a little extra won't hurt. I rarely actually measure anything. I'm trying to show off and use my measuring spoon, but unless I'm baking, the measuring cups and measuring spoons really don't come out. And then you're just going to return that to the stove for about 15 minutes of a really low simmer. And then your soup is ready to serve. Ladle some into your favorite bowl and have a go. It's really good. Serve it with crusty bread or just have it alone. This is a crowd pleaser. My husband loves it. Our kids love it. The baby loves it. It's great. So try potato leek soup today and enjoy. I do have to say my favorite potato leek soup I ever made was this last year. It was our first year growing leeks. And we had celery, leeks, and potatoes from our garden. And I made soup with that and with our own homemade stock, and it was so, so good. I'm sure this isn't going to beat the first time I made it with our own homegrown vegetables, but it's going to be darn good. All right, that's my potato leek soup. I'm calling it done, and I'm going to enjoy this bowl. And I just want to let you know, so I've set up a rig in my kitchen to have this camera face down and record me when I'm doing the normal things I do in my kitchen during the day. I'm not making this soup just to make this video. I'm making this soup for dinner. As I was cooking and I paused the video, I folded laundry and I did the dishes so that my kitchen is now clean, and I have a pot of soup on the stove, and I've recorded it to kill all the birds with one stone. So just keep in mind that multitasking in the kitchen doesn't have to be hard. It just has to take a little bit of thought, become a new routine. That's how I'm able to do so much stuff from scratch. It's just part of a routine. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Lanny. This has been Preserving Today, a Greener Pastures project.